So I had a lot of fun making these wands out of solid hardwood for my kids. The top one was made from Bloodwood. The bottom one is made from Brazilian rosewood. They were a little time consuming, but they were pretty easy to make. I'll walk you through it. So here's how I made a Harry Potter... Here's how I made a generic wizard's wand using absolutely no copyrighted material. So last time we were at Universal Studios, I bought this Harry Potter wand for my daughter. They have some pretty interesting designs that are certainly in the theme of the movies, but they're really, really expensive and they feel really plasticky. I thought I could do a little bit better than that. So here's one I made out of solid Brazilian rosewood. I think it came out far better than the plastic one. This design was created by my 9-year-old daughter. So this isn't stained. This is the natural color of the wood. I did go over it with some tung oil, but the grain pattern is just amazing. It feels more natural, and it's certainly unique, which is also keeping in with the spirit of wizard wands in general. So it was a lot of fun making this with her. But now my younger son wants one as well. And for that, I have this scrap of Bloodwood. This particular piece is very, very twisted, and that's why I haven't used it. I don't really know what to do with it, but I think the twisting is going to make for an interesting wand. This is very heavy and very dense wood, but I'll walk you through how I turn this scrap into a custom and unique wizard's wand. Here's a close-up, I think, where you could see a little bit better the detail in this wand. So I started cutting the basic shape with my bandsaw, but any old handsaw would have been fine. Everything was going good until my blade started wandering on me and I realized that I forgot to lock my fence down. So while I was cutting, the fence was sliding to the left. Always make sure your fence is locked down securely before you start cutting. Now, no harm was done. I was just trying to get it into a rough shape, so I just kept on cutting. To save me some work later, I cut off a little bit more on the corners to start rounding it over. So after I rough cut it into the basic shape, I went to the spindle sander to start bringing it closer to the final shape I wanted. But I quickly realized I forgot to tighten the spindle nut, and the sandpaper started riding up on me, and I ended up actually burning the rubber onto the wand. So always make sure your spindle nut bolts are tight when using the spindle sander. I got it going again and continued to try to shape it, but it was taking way too long. This wood was just way too dense for the sandpaper I was using. I was going to have to use much more aggressive means to carve this. So on to the bench grinder. This actually worked surprisingly well. Other than kicking a lot of pink dust everywhere, I was able to really control this shape. So I didn't have to be very particular. A lot of those nubs that you see were going to be shaved off during the final sanding. So when you're working on the grinder with stock like this, you have a tendency to want to focus really closely on this side of the grinder. But you should really pay attention to this side as well. I was trying to keep the top portion of it looking gnarly and twisted. I wanted the handle to be a little bit more straight and angular, so I was a little bit more careful when I was cutting that part down. So you can see the final result has a rough, whittled type of a look. Now the end product isn't going to look like that. It's going to be a lot more smooth and natural looking. The sanding process is going to smooth over a lot of those bumps. So I begin sanding it with a rough flapping wheel. This wheel takes off a lot of material, so I'm still very careful in how I'm shaping and designing the wand while using it. Because I want it to have a smooth, natural feel, the large diameter of this flat wheel is helping smooth over a lot of the finer bumps that the grinding process put into it. So this process results in what ultimately is going to be the final shape of the wand. I'm very happy with it. It has a natural, twisted type of a look to it, although it's still looking a bit rough. So for the final sanding and polishing, I'm actually using one of those cheap headlight restoration kits that you can get for like 10 bucks. They include this mandrel that you put in your drill. It's got a foam piece at the bottom and some Velcro. They also include a bunch of different grits of sandpaper that range from 500 to 800 to finally 3000 grit, all attached to the bottom of the mandrel using Velcro. It's perfect for this type of application. The trick here is to angle the wand carefully to get into all the little dips and valleys in the wand to make sure that everything gets polished very well, while also avoiding having the wand contact the mandrel itself and scratch and ruin what you've just tried to smoothen out. That happened a couple times to me. So I finished with the 3000 grit, and the results look fantastic. In fact, it almost looks like it's already had a gloss coat. To protect the wood, and considering that this is designed to be handled, I'm using some tung oil. I went with a low gloss, so it'll dry in a much more natural looking way. And here's the final result. They came out exactly the way I wanted them to. I'm very happy with it. I appreciate you watching it and hope you found it interesting. If you want to get any notifications the next time I do something interesting, please subscribe. Whoops, wrong music. That's better.